It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the happy entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we're on a mission. And our mission really is to inspire. Our mission is to empower. And our mission is to provide you, that's right, you, the entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Donslow, who's in the building, last name Brown, by the way. And he'll be talking about really a change of perspective. What's going on, Donslow? How you doing, man?
Man, I am doing great. I'm so glad to be here. There's been a lot of things going on in my world, but I'm glad to be here and be able to share with you all today.
Well, I'm glad that you're here as well. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it. And folks are going to read your bio. They'll get a chance to read the title, but they might be curious. A change of perspective. The first question is, why do people struggle these days with changing the way they're thinking today? I know it's a loaded question, but why are people so hesitant to change, man?
Oh man, there's a plethora of answers that come to mind, from their upbringing to situations that happen in their life that have, on a subconscious level, taught them to remain a particular level. One example I love to use is the story of the fleas. There was a study on fleas where they put a whole bunch of them in a jar, and as you know, fleas, they jump really high, and but unfortunately, within this jar, they kept jumping up, and the lid of the jar was preventing them from, breaking through or flying out, getting out. And I want to say after a month of those same fleas in the jar, they learned that when they removed the lid of the jar, the fleas learned not to jump as high anymore. So even after the lid was removed, they were still jumping lower than they knew to do. So again, to my point, a lot of people, because of whether it be trauma or whether it be whatever they've been taught to do, outside circumstances, it caused them to ultimately, choose to not be great, right? They choose
Mm.
to remain at a particular level. So again, I do believe that a lot of people, there's a plethora of reasons why it's hard for people to change the way they think, but it does require intention for them to transcend regular thoughts, that stinking thinking, that old mindset.
Take a moment if you can, because you did mention a change of perspective, and they're looking at that and they might be curious. Perspective means different things to different people. So when you use the word perspective, what's your view of the world? What's the definition of perspective, and why is that so important for folks today?
Great question. So my understanding of perspective, the best way I can put it is in how you view a situation. So for instance, if I'm 3 years old and I'm given a gold bar, right, a solid gold bar, right, you give it to me. From my perspective, I'm viewing this from one, my knowledge, from my vantage point, so my physical location, my height. I'm viewing it from my whatever wisdom I have. So again, as a child, I'm viewing that gold bar from a perspective of a child. So I don't know the importance of, well, now I have some form of wealth, right? Because I have this big old thing of gold, right? I don't see it as something I can invest. I don't see it as something that can benefit me in the short or long run. But from that perspective, from that knowledge, I see it as something that simply is shiny. And I may want to put my mouth on it, right? Because I don't know any better. But same scenario. Now I'm 21, or let's say I'm 30 years old, and I have some knowledge, and I'm a bit taller, which does, can possibly play a role as well. And I have knowledge and know-how as to what I can do with that particular gold bar that can benefit me. So ultimately, perspective allows the individual to make better decisions based on the knowledge, experience, and know-how. Another example I love to use is the penny example, which, Jay, I don't know if you have a penny around you, or whenever you get the chance, I would love for you or our viewers to do this. But I would
Yeah,
take
I don't
a
have no
penny.
coins around here. I don't have no cash no more
You have
on
no
me.
coins? Listen, cashless society with me. Let's see. I don't have any coins either, but
Okay.
I'll just take something as I'll just take something as this little wrapper here that I have in my pocket,
Okay.
and I'm gonna put it right in front of my eye. Right, I'm gonna put it right in front of my eye, whichever eye, doesn't matter. And as I leave this thing, I'm gonna close my other eye so I can make this point make this make sense to you all. But as I leave this here, what do you believe I can see with this thing right in front of me?
Not a
All I
whole
can
lot.
see is what's in front. Say that again.
I said not a whole lot right now.
Not a whole lot, because all I can see is what's in front of me. However, Jay, if I was to move back, now I can see beyond what's this thing that what's in front of me, right? If I move over here, if I literally move in different angles, different directions, I can now see not only what's beyond it, but I can see the thing that's hindering me from seeing in front of me. So perspective also requires a geographical or a disposition change in your mind to comprehend the vastness or the fullness of the situation. In life, we don't often see what's behind the door. And oftentimes, it's necessary for us not to. But there are times that requires us to have a better perspective of the door itself rather than simply looking through the keyhole. So if we take a step back, see where the doorknob is, or see how we can access the keyhole to open up the door, then that's what's needed. There's many of us that we have that thing in front of us and we get stuck there, and then we say, you know what, because this is here, I can't get beyond it, so I'm just going to leave it alone. But I firmly believe, Jay, that we can't remain that way. We have to make certain changes in our hearts and our minds that gets us to look beyond what's in front of us.
I love it, man. Spot on. Love it. Um, Folks are listening to you and saying he's making sense. I love the examples. I love the fleas going up and down. They're listening, saying, "Man, this is kind of cool." But Shay, I don't know who this person is. I mean, I know you're famous, Donslow. I get it. But there are a number of folks that maybe in our audience that are meeting you for the very first time. And they want to know, who is this person talking, Shay? Can you slow down for a moment? Then you can speed back up.
Absolutely.
What is his backstory? They want to know that two-part question. And then what was that defining moment that led Donslow to doing what he's doing now, which is helping people see the world differently than what it is? So, two-part question. Number one, the backstory. You know we want that. And number two, what was that defining moment, man, that led you down this path?
Wow. Let's do it. So a little bit about myself. Again, born Donslow Brown, Brooklyn, New York. Uh, Born and raised in the Flatbush area of Brooklyn. Spent time in Canarsie, spent time in Brownsville, spent time all over Brooklyn. Um, Ultimately, mostly my background, is very heavily in the faith background. Um, and when I say faith background, I don't mean to oversimplify. I spent a lot of time, serving in my community church. But even in serving in my community church, there was a lot of experiences, a lot of things that I I learned. A lot of interpersonal, but a lot of um, how do I say this? A lot of things were happening in my time while serving in the community church, beyond the four walls. In that time, I learned a lot about myself. I grew up in a household. My mom, my sisters, my three sisters. My mom and dad separated at a very young age. I met my stepdad when I was about 6 or 7. And ultimately, like a typical scenario, growing up without a dad, there was some lack there. There was some deficiencies there. But in the time that my dad really wasn't in the picture, I'm thankful that the man upstairs definitely orchestrated different individuals, different men that came in and Uh, served in that capacity, from my stepdad to other individuals in the community. And one of the things that really touched my life, again, working in community church, it wasn't just what I was doing there, but it was the heart of service. It was the heart of servitude that was being cultivated and being demonstrated while being there. And one of just a quick sidebar, Che. One of the greatest things you can ever do is serve. One of the greatest things you can ever do is serve. A lot of times, we want to receive. I mean, I like receiving from time to time, but when you give, there's something that always comes back to you. You can give, 2 cups of water, but then by the time you come back home, you have a whole gallon. You have a whole gallon. So again, in my time of giving, there was a lot of things that were being deposited into my spirit, and one of the things that was being deposited into my spirit was um, the way I viewed certain things. Even when I would provide consultations or encouragement, or if I ever preached a message, oftentimes people would come to me and tell me, Don, the way that you broke this down, I can see that there's an understanding that you have. The way you broke it down wasn't, what I typically hear, and not to toot my horn or anything like that, but just the way, the way I process certain things. It just, I always want people to get the fullness of what something is. I don't like giving people appetizers, expecting them to receive it as though it's the entree. I want to be able to give the fullness of what I have to give. But ultimately, as I continue to grow, I transitioned into basically training. I went into the training world as a health informatics trainer, and pretty much what that means is I would go and teach clinical medical professionals how to convert their regular workflow into a computer system. Now, as difficult as that may sound, it's not that difficult. But what really makes it difficult, Che, is I realize a lot of people they like what they like, right? So I would come in, and I'll explain what I mean by that. I would come into a facility, a health facility, and they'll say, Don, I know that you came here to teach us this new system. I know that you want to teach us the computer system and everything like that. But Don, I've been using paper since '99. I've been using paper since '92. I've been using this computer system since 2000. And now you're coming in trying to teach me something new. And I'm not going to lie to you, Don, I don't like what you're doing. I don't like this new system. I like you, but I don't like this new thing that you want to show me. And I realized, Shay, at least 90% of what I was doing was not even about the system I was showing them, was showing them how to convert their workflow, but really I was getting them to pivot their mindset towards something new. Because 9 out of 10 times, if not 10 out of 10 times, Shay, the work that I'm showing them, one, it allows work to be completed a lot more quicker, right? Two, it's a lot more safer for the patient, whatever we're doing. Three, they're everything that like allows the clinicians to do. Again, it allows transparency, and everybody knows what this one is doing, and everybody is responsible for this. Because again, in the previous health system, Shay, I don't know, what our viewers know about it, but a lot of stuff can be a bit ambiguous, or the doctors would have the nurses do certain things that they weren't necessarily supposed to do, or this particular person, this specialist was doing this. But now with the newer systems, they're now held responsible for everything that they're supposed to be doing. So now I would show them the perks of doing this, and typically a typical workload that would take them about 20 minutes to do per patient. Now it's taking them 5, 7 minutes, and then once they really get the handle of it, it's really like 3 to 5 minutes. And if they ever have to go back and add more work or add more documentation at the end of the shift, they'll make sure they take care of that. So again, just to land my point there, Shay, in my time showing them, shifting their mindset, making them comfortable towards something new, I realized that's all of us. I mean, how many people here? There's a constant battle between iPhone users and Android users, right?
Right.
Right. We're not going to get into that because I don't want nobody to be mad at me. But for those who transition from Android to iPhone, that is like one of the hardest things to do because it's counterintuitive. And I can actually tell you, Che, that for me, for my wife, I switched from iPhone to Android temporarily, and I'm still crying on the inside because it's so
I can't do
counterintuitive.
it. I can't do it. Can't do it. Can't do it. I
It's so
tried.
hard.
No. Apple. Apple, yes.
Apple everything. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, I bit the apple. I don't know. Like I don't know what to say. But and not to say that I can't use the Android, but I've just it just became so difficult because it was so for me iPhones are very intuitive. So now going back to Android, so with that same point, people are like that, Jay. We're creatures of habit. What we start with and what we've been doing, we don't like pivoting. And that's okay. But when we don't change our perspective, when we don't have a mind shift about certain things, some things will keep us bound. Some things will serve as a stagnating agent, if that makes any sense. Some things will get us to halt altogether. And then we just find ourselves in a place of analysis paralysis, which is a killer towards your productivity, right?
Yeah.
So, what I like to do right now, Susan, is right now I've started a new company um, outside of my tech consulting company called Uncaged Consulting. And pretty much what I'm doing now, Che, is I'm providing services. I'm providing like 3 day seminars or whatever the client may need. And basically, we talk about things such as personal development. We talk about having a mindset change and its importance in this day and age. And then this is not just, this is not just somebody in a professional, a CEO. This is for that college student that is having the difficulties, really buckling down, in school, because it all starts here first. If all I want to do is take the steps to my destination, when there's an elevator that will take me there within 5 seconds, then I need to get that individual to understand that at this particular moment, I know you're true to the steps, but let's take this elevator for this. Because time is always moving, Jay. We all know that. Time waits for nobody. Music Soul Child came out with a song years ago. He said, time waits for nothing, but everything's gonna take its time. So at the end of the day, because we know that time waits for nothing, we have to make sure that we are doing all that we can with the time that we have. And because of that, also, we're not allotted uh, the privilege to just sit. Well, let me not say it like that, but it's important for us to be prudent with our time. And if we get stuck at something, then maybe we just need to pivot in order for us to get to our destination.
Which is a perfect segue, man. Thanks so much for giving us the backdrop, the backstory, the who, what, when, where, and how. Congratulations on Uncaged Consulting. Sounds pretty
Thank
cool,
you.
by the way.
Thank you. Too.
I'm an Apple person. I believe God is a woman. I believe she created the iPhone, by the way. I don't know about all the other products, because who else would create the Apple products but a woman, by the way? Because
Oh
it's
man.
so easy to use. No
Oh
offense to the
man.
Android users out there, by the way. I just happen, like you, I just had to be an Apple fanatic. But anyway, folks are probably listening right now, and they probably want to know, Shay, we have a segment. I'll tell you this, Don. So we have a segment here, and I think it's a good transition, called Today is My January 1st. Now, for those folks who tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I know you wait for this moment where you can say those words, today is my January 1st. And for all the new folks who are tuning in for the very first time, welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show. Today is my January 1st. Is our personal mantra here, by the way. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past. And you don't have to wait to January 1st. It means our past. No matter how dark and gloomy that past is or how bright and sunny that past is, the past no longer equals the future. So my question for Donslow on the other side is really twofold. Number one, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? And number two, when was the time there was another setback in your life? Maybe his life's been perfect, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. We're going to find this out. There was a setback, and how were you able to really bounce back from it and change your perspective?
Mm. Today's my January 1st. Mm. Well, I would have to say, um, to answer both questions, my son is 10 years old now, about to be 11 on the 2nd of January. So let's just say about 10 years ago, um, before he was born, and you might relate to me on this and some of our viewers, I had no idea how to be a dad. Right? Um, as I shared with you all earlier, I didn't grow up with my dad, and mind you, my dad and I we're like brothers, mind you. Like there's no love lost. Um, I love my stepdad. I love every individual that has come into my life. But um, before we had my first child, my first son, I I didn't tell my wife this, but deep down inside, I was afraid. I was afraid that I didn't have what was needed to be a good father. And again, as I mentioned before, I didn't grow up with my dad, uh, and there was some things that I felt like I was missing, I was deficient in, to be able to serve on that capacity. But to answer your question, the twofold question, my January 1st was when my son was born on January 2nd. And why I say that? Because from the moment I saw his eyes, I knew exactly what I had to do. Ask me how, Shay. I don't know. Well, actually, I do know. I believe, and this is another thing I love to say as well. I believe just like an apple seed knows how to become an apple tree, I knew at that moment that I knew how to be a father to this young man, to this baby, to this infant. So it's funny because I remember every conversation after he came out with my wife, I would say, "Babe, we need to do this, that, and the third, and we also need to do this, and she's looking at me like, a day or two ago, you you was asking me, you was telling me that you probably won't hold him because you're afraid of dropping him. Now you're saying you're going to do this and the third. Yes, because at that moment, Shay, I realized that everything that we need is already jam packed inside of us. It just requires us to be in a position where that thing that's on the inside needs to come out. Same example with the apple seed. Once the apple seed is planted, I don't need to tell it what to do. It has a dormancy period within the ground, and then eventually it experiences its first breakthrough, which is the breakthrough of self, because of the setting that it's now in. Because the apple seed doesn't grow in your hand, it doesn't grow in your pocket, it doesn't grow even on the table, it doesn't grow amongst other apples, but it grows when it's in a particular setting and it's going through a particular situation. So the first breakthrough that takes place is in the ground during seclusion, and then it breaks through to the earth where everybody else sees it, and everybody else sees the changes that the seed has gone through. But it doesn't stop there; it keeps on growing, 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 growing until eventually it's this big old tree. And just when you think it's over, it begins to produce fruit. So to my point, my January 1st was my January 2nd. Excuse me, my January 2nd. And that was the day I realized that everything I needed to be, everything I needed to do, the Creator already put it inside of me for me to be able to walk it out.
Wow, man. Thanks for sharing that with us. Thanks for being so transparent. Amazing. One of my questions I like to ask when we have time is what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? Now, I'll frame it for the audience, okay? Because I know you've read tons of books, probably watched more videos than you can recall these days, by the way. And I'm certainly not asking you to come off the mountaintop with the 10 Commandments or anything here. But if you had to step back and reach and think, you know what? Of all the advice I've been given, here's one good piece of advice that I've been given that's helped my life that I want to pass on to the viewers. What is that advice and why?
Hmm. Many, many different things come to my mind. Um, okay. The three P's. Um, for every promise, there's a process. Within the process, there are provisions that are given. What do I mean? You mentioned the Ten Commandments earlier, and that actually prompted this response. When the people of Israel were led out of Egypt, they were given initially a promise. The promise was that they were going to go into a land filled with milk and honey. But here's the thing: they were not told that they were going to walk through a teleportation pad and just automatically appear there. Excuse me. They weren't told that they were just going to leave the Egyptians and then, after a hop, skip, and a jump, they were going to be there. They were going to make it to the promised land. There was a process they had to go through. There was a physical, geographical process, and there was also a mental and emotional process, and dare I say, a spiritual process they had to go through. And in the midst of the process, there were provisions given to them. Right? We understand that they were given. There was a pillar, a cloud blocking the sun from scorching them during the day, and there was also a pillar of fire that was keeping them warm at night. That's a provision. There were quail, different foods. They were given manna throughout that process of getting there. Right? There was many of different things that the Creator provided for them throughout that process while they were making their way to uh, the promised land. So to my point, Shay, for me personally, I've been promised many things, whether it be by man or by the divine creator. But in the time that I've been promised it, I always realized that there was a process I had to go through, which ultimately prepared me for the promise. And what encouraged me and what helped me to stand 10 toes down was that while I'm waiting or while I'm going through my process, there will be provisions given. So I wouldn't tire or wouldn't pass out in uh, my transitions, my way to the promise.
I love it, man. When you're not out saving the world, what do you do for fun? When you're not out training at these healthcare places, helping people uncaged and
Right.
consulting, when you're not playing around with a new Android, which, I don't know why you're doing that. What do you do for
It's
fun these days with
experiment,
the family?
experiment. What do I love to do? Oh man. I did a little bit of this earlier. I love singing. I love singing.
Okay.
I don't do it as much as I used to, but ever so often, especially if you catch me passing by a live music place. Like for instance, I was in Dallas about a few weeks ago, and Dallas has a lot of. I mean, New York too, of course, but Dallas has a lot, especially downtown Dallas, has a lot of spots where there's live music. Plano has a lot of. There's a particular spot there I love. Has a really nice place for live music, and I just love it, man. I love it. I don't know the music that's out now that really registers for me. But I love live music. I love singing. I love anything musical. I love it. I love it, man. It's one of my love languages.
Man, well, let me say one thing. Congratulations to you. Thanks for singing a little earlier. And I thought that was pretty cool. As we come down the home stretch, two-part question. Number one, what type of clients is your firm looking to work with these days so the audience can be clear? And number two, how can people best connect with you? I mean, like, how can they stay in this conversation over and beyond the time they have with you and I right now?
Absolutely. So to answer your first question, right now I'm taking on entrepreneurs and business owners. I want to be able to reach out to my college students or my high school students transitioning into college as well. But right now, I mean, again, if they come, I'm not going to turn them down because we all need the assistance, we all need the support. But right now, I'm working with professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners at this time. I do believe that where we are as a country, and just in general as human beings, we all go through different stages. I do believe that in this time, um, many people just simply need to hear somebody that is one, not automatically looking for results or solutions. That's one thing I don't do. I don't automatically say, this is your problem. This is what you need to do. No, I believe my clients deep down inside know the solution, but they're just stuck with that reoccurring stinking thinking or whatever the case may be. So again, I want to take time and listen to them So that's one. The second thing is, how can you reach me? Right now, one of the best ways you can reach me is on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/ Donslow Brown. I can also be reached on my Instagram, at Instagram at D Brown underscore speaks. So that's at D Brown. It's spelled the way it sounds, underscore SPEAKS.
I love it, man. Let me say two things. First, thanks so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. I know you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. So you've given us the most precious resource you have, which is your time. So thanks for being on the show. We appreciate it. Can't wait to have you back again, man.
Thank you so much for having me, and I definitely look forward to coming back, Shane.
And thank you. Thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, by the way. Thanks for inviting us inside your, well, might not be in your home. We're probably on your smartphone right now. We might be on your iPad. Maybe you're listening to the podcast. You might be on a train or in the gym listening to us. So we appreciate it, because without you, well, we don't have a show. So we're really glad that you're here. So thank you so much. And I never get tired of reminding you every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that no matter what's going on in your life, by the way, whether right now you're going to a whole nother level, which is pretty cool, or life's hit you with the punch that you never saw coming, the one thing I know to be true is that today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, I believe your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name, it hasn't changed. Still Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. And we'll make some good things how we connect again next time. God bless. Don. We out of here. Peace, everybody.